Okay, 4 shortcuts that I absolutely love. More importantly, why I love them, how you can modify them to make them function better for your hair texture and your face shape, and then some things that you need to think about before you dive all in on them. Sound good? All right, let's dive into some haircuts. Okay, for this first cut, I love the texture. I love the movement that it gives the hair. Now, some of this is created from the cut and some of this is created from the style, but when hair is a little bit less contrived, it's, I guess you could say, an organized mess, it really gives the overall appearance a lot more life and vibrancy. I also love the extra length. It doesn't make you feel like you're super short yet. The other thing I love about this is how it's tapered in at the neck. That profile is going to lift the eye up, really lifting the bone structure. Okay, let's talk about how to modify it. If you've got a longer face or if you've got more of a diamond-shaped face, you're really trying to add that fullness down at your jawline, you're gonna wanna make sure that you add a little bit more length around below the ears. So that can be through adding length on the side so you have a little bit more fullness, or a combination of that and adding a little bit actual length in the back at the nape to make this overall shape a little bit longer. That little bit of fullness behind the ears and down around the jawline is gonna help to offset that thinness through that area and gonna give you a little bit more width. Now, at the other side of this, if you feel like you've got a round face or a full face, then in your situation, you're gonna wanna actually take the sides a little bit shorter, and that's gonna help you actually add a little bit more elongation to your face. One other option that you can do is create a little bit more volume in the top. That's also gonna help elongate. Now, you can do either of those two things, or you can combine them if you really feel like you wanna really push that elongation. Now, one other thing is if you've got a smaller forehead or if you've got a fuller face, you're gonna wanna wear a little less bangs versus more bangs. It doesn't mean that you can't wear some of these bangs, it just means that you don't want to make them too full or especially square across your face because that can be too closing and we want to focus more on opening that shape up a little bit. Okay, here's some things you want to pay attention to at this shape. This is going to work great for hair that has a little bit of natural wave or bend, not necessarily curl, but just a little bit of texture. It's going to be a little bit harder to create this type of texture that you're seeing in this style if you've got really, really stick straight, board straight hair. So it's not that it can't be done, it just means that you're gonna spend a little bit more time in the morning trying to create that with a round brush or a flat iron. One other thing that you wanna pay attention to on this particular style is that a lot of the texture is created by the color. Now, it's not to say that you have to do color, it's just to say that if you've got one color or very monotone hair, you might find that you don't get quite the illusion of texture that you're seeing in this, and that may add an extra layer of maintenance to your hairstyle that you just don't want to take on. Just pay attention to the fact that you can only create so much texture through the cut and through the way you style it. Some of that texture is going to come through dimension, and dimension is created many times by color. Oh, and hey, if you're new here, first of all, welcome, but you may be wondering, why would I even listen to this guy? I mean, who cares what he thinks? That's a good question. Well, my name is Justin Hickox. I have been doing hair since 1995, so at very minimum, I guess the insight does come from some base of knowledge, maybe a little bit. But if you are new, like I said, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you. If you like hair, I typically take you on an adventure while I teach you about hair. So today's adventure is a little bit different. We're actually at my house. But yeah, if you want to make your hair a little bit easier, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you make sure that you get notified every Tuesday when we come out with a brand new video. But otherwise, let's get back to the hairstyles. Okay, and from there we move on to a Pixie. Now, I love this Pixie. It's really short, so this is pretty aggressive, but that's part of, I think, what I like about it. To me, that screams confidence, and that's kind of, in my mind, a little bit what a Pixie is about. It's about saying, heck yeah, I'm gonna go short, and I don't care what anyone thinks, I'm gonna rock my short hair, and this is how I roll. Obviously, when we talk about Pixie haircuts, we're talking about a wash and wear style. To me, that's a huge deal. You jump in the shower, you shampoo it, you jump out, maybe you dry it, maybe you don't, you put a little product in it, boom, you're out the door, and it's gonna look great. So to me, just the ease of use on this is a big deal. It's part of the reason I like this actually being this short. I also love the ability that you get to wear this really funky or to kind of comb this a little bit more with your hands and make it a little bit more conservative. Again, versatility is huge, and for many people, I feel like they think that going this short doesn't allow for a lot of versatility. This actually does create still a lot of versatility with how you style it. Now, with this being so short, you're probably thinking, well, how do you modify this to actually work for different face shapes? And I get a lot of this particular question. I have a fuller face and I wanna go really short. Can I wear a Pixie? It makes me nervous. So here's the thing about this particular shape. it's really tight on the sides. And that creates the illusion, but there's more volume on top. When you do that, it's going to help elongate the face shape. Now, if you're really concerned about it, you may want to leave a tiny bit more length on top just so you can get even a little bit more height on top. That will help to elongate your face a little bit more as well. If you've got a longer face, you're going to want to actually kind of do the opposite. You're going to want to tame that top down a little bit, add a little bit more fullness to the sides, but be careful in that you don't want to just add fullness to the sides. You want to add length in the sides, but also maintain the volume in the temples or around the temples. So you want to keep this line, but you just want to add a little bit more fullness in that same line, if that makes sense. Now, one other thing is, what if you've got a face that's got stronger angles and you feel like you want to soften that jawline or soften some of the angles in your face? One way you can do this is actually by leaving a little bit more length around the perimeter or on the sides and in the nape, and then having a little bit of softness there so it's not quite so edged in. Some things we want to pay attention to. Obviously, because this is very short, it's going to feel like it grows out very quick. Some people feel like, hey, when I go really short, I have longer for it to grow out because it's so short. You're going to get used to it being this short, and it's going to feel like it gets too long really quickly, even though it's really not that much longer. It's just a lot longer than it was. So there may be more maintenance involved in this. Also, pay attention to the fact that small changes play huge roles. When we're talking about adding a little bit of length in certain areas, a little bit of length, meaning a quarter to a half an inch, can create an entirely different overall shape, and that can either be good or bad for you. So pay attention to your face shape on this, and just understand that if you feel like, I'm not really liking this, it makes my face feel a little bit too full or whatever, it may not be the short hair, it may just be a little bit of length in a certain area. And this is also something that you're going to want to be very specific with your stylist about, so that they understand what your concerns about your face shape are, so that they can modify these little nuances according to those. Or if you're doing your hair at home, heads up, if you don't already know, I have an entire webinar where I teach people how to avoid home hair mistakes. There's a link in the description if you want to join our next one. It's a live Q&A. It's fantastic. So if you're doing your hair at home, check it out. It's going to help you a ton. Another fantastic thing to know about this style is that if you've got finer or thinner hair, really thinner hair of any texture, this could potentially make your hair look thicker. So as a rule of thumb, to a certain extent, the shorter you take hair, the thicker it's going to look. Before we jump into this one, the design element in the nape, that is very much a personal decision, so obviously you do not need to do that for this particular cut. With that said, I love the fact that it's an edgy appeal. You can actually style this in a much more conservative fashion. So there's actually a lot of styling options here. I also love the shorter nape and the sides in this. It allows you to take that crown area a little bit shorter, which is going to make it easier to create more fullness and shape in that area. But at the same time, there's a lot of length in the front. So you still, when you look head on, feel like you've got an illusion of length. One other thing is the short bangs. Now, this may be short and concerning for a lot of people, but I actually love this look. There's not a bunch of short bangs. So if you decide that you don't want to see those, you can easily style those back up off your face, blend them into the other hair, and all of a sudden now you've got longer bangs because the other side is longer. But if you decide that you want it to be a little bit more funky or edgy, it's going to be able to style down, and now you've got some short pieces that add that cool kind of element of edge. More importantly, because those pieces are short, it actually lightens that area up and allows for a little bit more volume in there. And again, this moves us on to how to modify this shape for your different face shapes. If you have a fuller face, you're going to want to actually open your face up a little bit more. So in some cases, having those little shorter pieces there and being able to get that lift in that area and open your face up can help to actually elongate your face. With that said, you also want to pay attention again to the sides. If you've got fuller face, taking those sides short like this is going to be helpful because it's going to draw the illusion of, again, less fullness in the side, which creates the illusion of more volume on top, which helps to elongate. Now on the flip side, if you've got a longer face, or again, a diamond-shaped face, or a face where we're trying to add a little bit more width to it, then you're going to want to pay more attention to actually leaving those sides maybe a little bit longer, or potentially even leaving the back a little bit longer again, to try to get the illusion of a little bit more fullness. You're also going to want to pay attention to adding a little bit less volume in the top to, again, accentuate that fullness, and you may consider having some of those bangs a little bit more down in your face versus up out of your face. Some things that you want to pay attention to for this. There's going to be a bit more maintenance with this cut, mainly because the sides and the back are so short, especially if you go as short as this particular cut. Normal growth, quarter to half an inch a month, is going to be twice as long as it is now. It's also going to be touching the ear, and those simple little areas may feel like it grows out faster, so you may feel like you need haircuts more often. Now, also keep in mind that if you've got some bend in your hair, curl, wave, or strong bend, this may take you a little bit longer to actually style than it looks. This overall shape, the movement, the texture, a large part of what's kind of drawing to it is how kind of straight it is. It's not board straight, it's got some bend, but it's not really wavy or curly. So if you're gonna take time to flat iron this to get this look, then just recognize that while it's short and it looks like it would be wash and wear, it's likely not gonna be, and you're gonna actually have to spend some time with it. If you're a person that doesn't like product in your hair, this is going to require some sort of pomade or texturizing cream to create the texture that you're seeing. So it's gonna have a tendency to feel like you've got more product in your hair, likely. If you're a person that loves your hair to feel squeaky clean, you may or may not like how this looks when it's squeaky clean. Okay, so the next shape is a bob shape. And let's be honest, I know that this is a little bit longer than most short shapes, but there will never be a version of a bob that's not in style. So for me, that's part of the reason I love them. One of the great things about bobs like this is you dress them up or dress them down based on how you actually dress. So if you're dressed conservatively, then this bob shape is gonna have more of a conservative edge. However, if you're dressed super fun and you're ready to go out or whatever, it's a little bit more edgy or funky, the bob is going to lean itself towards the idea of being more funky or edgy. So you don't have to change the way you style your hair functionally, it just kind of molds itself to however you're presenting yourself. Now the other thing I love about this particular bob is the beveling in the back. So there's one thing about bobs that I feel is really important, and that's it. They usually look best when the line actually follows the face structure. So when it's actually not parallel to the floor, it helps to lift the eye up, it helps to have the bob swing better, and ultimately it just looks, again, kind of more timeless. Now, the beveling in the back on this one helps to kind of create the illusion that there's more angle to that line in the front, but there isn't actually more angle. It's pretty parallel to the floor. Okay, how do we modify this? If you've got a fuller face, you're gonna wanna leave the length in the front a bit longer, okay? You don't wanna put it right at your chin because that's gonna add more fullness. Now, on the flip side, if you've got a longer face, you're gonna wanna draw that line right about at your chin to help accentuate some of that fullness. Now, if you've got thicker hair or you have some wave in your hair, you're definitely going to want to layer those sides. Your hair is in extreme danger of getting very triangular and actually adding too much width, but more importantly, bringing the eye down. So we want to make sure that we take enough of that bulk out so that you can actually create more lift in the top, and that side actually sits in a little bit more, creating the volume more around the temples than in the cheekbone area. Now this goes for you even if you've got a longer face, it's still going to hold true because of the texture of your hair being so thick and or the wave that compounds on itself and creates more fullness. You're already going to have more than enough fullness on the side. Once you bring that length roughly around your chin, you'll actually end up probably having too much. And there you go. So I hope that helped a little bit. I hope you got some value from that. If you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And otherwise, what I need you to do right now is watch this video right here because you're going to learn more stuff and it's going to help support the channel. Hey, I appreciate you hanging out. I'll see you in the next video. Sound good? All right. We'll see you then. Bye.